What does every superhero have in common? They all have some form of kryptonite. And what do all forms of kryptonite have in common? They all have to do with something deeply personal to you. This video is about identifying your kryptonite and then sealing up those holes so that you're no longer susceptible to it. This new moon takes place in Uttara Ashada. Uttara Ashada means ultimate victory. It also means delayed victory. We're always looking to the future. And it's not about what the gratification will be today. It's always about what we are working toward. Uttara Ashada is ruled by the sun being our ultimate expression in the world, the way that we shine, the way that we show up in the world. And the difficulty with pursuing a spiritual path, which doesn't necessarily yield any worldly benefits, is how do you really know that you're on the right track? And how do you know that you're doing what you should be doing? Do they see your peace? When others watch you, do they see your fine form? Or when others watch you, do they see your temper? The only way to know is how you live. So let's do a little recap. How was that full moon in Ardra for you? After the sets of eclipses, the things that you were exposed to, the secrets that came out, and then there comes the Ardra full moon, which is a storm. If you're feeling shell-shocked, that seems natural. It's one change after another after another. It's like emotional muscle memory. Did you get the lesson yet? 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 So by this last time, and the last couple weeks, it wasn't even the feeling like a fight. It was that feeling about after you've been fighting for a week, and after you've cried all night, and after you've been up for 6 days straight, you've got nothing left. And so you just sit there, no energy, dazed, nothing left. The bad part of that is that you just went through it. And then the good part of that is you've got no energy to re-enter that. Whatever situations you were dealing with, whatever people you were dealing with, whatever relationships you were dealing with, it's now so clear to you where you stand and how you are regarded in that situation, how you are regarded by those people, what you are bringing to that relationship versus what they were bringing to that relationship. You can't see it other than what it is now. This is another element of Uttara Ashada. You've been stripping away elements to see things more clearly. And now that you see them more clearly, Uttara Ashada is about implementing these changes. So whatever doesn't belong, it doesn't take up room anymore. This is the same thing what Pluto and Capricorn is doing. Whatever those structures were, Capricorn, Pluto is cleaning them out for you. And the reason this feels painful is because of how we were attached to these relationships, how we were attached to these situations, how we were attached to these people, what we thought these relationships should do for us, how we thought these people should come through for us, whatever the label was. Their association, their friend, their family, their elected official, at whatever level. What we are always fighting is the reality of what is versus the perception that we so dearly want to hold on to about what is. And the Nakshatra is about being able to perceive things clearly. So we are using our senses and we are using the data available to us so that we see things clearly. When you cast this chart, the majority of planets are in the 4th house. And 4th house has to do with your foundations. That is your sense of home, where you've come from, your roots, the base of you. Family, mother, where you live, as in like place of origin, where you're from. So let's revisit this example of Martin Luther King Jr. sitting in the Birmingham jail. So while his mind is expanding, and while there was something really positive that came from that, do you imagine that he didn't also have really negative things coming at him too? Do you imagine that there weren't people in his life who were constantly questioning him, who were asking him things like, what are the odds that you will ever succeed? You're up against something that is completely insurmountable. Do you think you're so important? You do see you're in jail, right? Is this really going how you thought it was going to go? How many of you listening have ever heard things like that about your life and about your path? Now, the interesting part, go back to the superheroes. It's not Spider-Man's inability to be Spider-Man. It's not Superman's inability to be Superman. And I don't really know superheroes that well. But the point, their powers are intact. They're never the problem. The problems occur when they have these little nudges or they have these little wedges. And it always has to do with home and where they've come from. And all these weird little psychological problems that vex them, they're always so deeply personal. And that's why in X-Men they had the Origins movie. You always have to understand the roots. You always have to understand the pain of somebody to understand where they come. And it's like this with spiritual evolution as well. We do turn our lead into gold. But let that also show you the vulnerability of the people closest to us and the things that are invisible to us because they're so normal, because they're what we've grown up with. Those things have such an ability to impede us. That's why the rest of this video is about the business of home. We think about our business as our business. We set up policies for our business. We educate ourselves on how to progress in our business. This is all very normal. When it comes to our home life, however, we imagine everything's supposed to be organic. And rarely do people assign the same type of discipline and regimen to their home life. In the field of conflict resolution, I hear this all the time, that communication is just something that happens organically. And I'll tell you, there can't be a more false thing said. If you have healthy communication with somebody, it's because you have boundaries. It's because you have elements of respect. It's because you have consistency in how you communicate with one another. It's not because you're stepping into something and you're devalued, you're not appreciated, you're not allowed to be yourself, you don't know what you're getting every time. So just as we assign some type of ritual, some type of parameters to our spiritual practices, so must we do so for what our sense of home is. So must we do so for where our comfort comes from. The two major energies we're dealing here are Saturn, Pluto, and then Mars, Uranus. Saturn and Pluto have in common that they don't know your family. They don't know your political affiliation. They don't know your coworkers. They don't know your friends. They don't care. They want to see that the bills are getting paid. The ascendant in this chart is Virgo. Virgo just wants to see that the numbers add up. It's nice that you like them. That's fine. They need to see that the numbers add up. Capricorn, Saturn, needs to see that everything is in order and that everything has its place. And Pluto is here to transform, get rid of, release, or rot away whatever's not supposed to be there. The second major energy, Mars and Uranus. So Mars, the planet of drive, ambition, fighting, military, army, sex, and Uranus, the planet of innovation, lightning, internet, reconciling things that are needing reconciled quickly. So you have the planet of strength with the lightning planet. Both of them not waiting around to see what happens. Both of them, they're the opposite of Saturn and Pluto. Saturn and Pluto are trying to make sure everything is just so. Everything that belongs is present and everything that doesn't belong is gone. Mars and Uranus are about action and about action yesterday. Let's keep talking about Pluto for a minute. This isn't the Pluto card, but I like it. Check out the figures on the card, right? You have the specter behind them. You have this face peering out at you. This is your past. This is your trauma. This is everything hidden. This is your shadow. These are your corners. These are the things that you never want to come to light. And you do your best to stuff them in the dark closet and never have them emerge. You see the figures? The figures aren't bloodied. They're not suffering. They're standing there lightly. They have chains around their neck, you see, but you also get the sense that at any point they could lift the chain and be done. Here's the choice with Pluto. Pluto is transformation. Nobody makes you do it. It's up to you. And if you're on a spiritual path, and if you're looking to be something better than what you are now, in terms of what your soul evolution is, you will transform. You choose to transform. Even when it hurts, you choose to transform. This is not a choice that everybody else makes. And this is not a choice that's popular with people who aren't making that choice. As an energy, Pluto is intense control. It represents your fears, it represents your traumas, it represents all of those things that happened in the past that haunt you today. All of those things, all of those voices that tell you that you're not enough. Do you really know what you're doing? Who are you to take on this work? Who are you to say what you have to say? Who are you to be better than us? In the spiritual community, there are really clever remedies to talk about everything except what you need to talk about. Everybody wants to know all of these deep-seated psychological traumas. I've seen all of these modalities. If you want to really solve the mystery, watch how your family talks to you. Watch how you talk to yourself. Observe how you step into a situation and allow others to find themselves superior to you, or how you find yourself superior to others. Would their life be better if they just did what you do or what you want them to do? That's not acceptance. That's its own form of judgment. The keys to your transformation lie in the everyday. They lie in your patterns. They lie in your behaviors. They lie in your relationships. They lie in your language. They lie in your activities. This is where your transformation comes from. Cancer, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Is this who you really are? This full moon is occurring in your 7th house. Your 7th house is your committed partnerships, your close one-on-one relationships. If you're social media, it's your audience. It's the people you interact with closely. Also your contracts. So it's how you align with people closely. Our relationships tell us a lot about ourselves. Who we are in relationship with tells us how we feel about ourselves. How we hear somebody speak to us, what we accept, tells us a lot about ourselves. What we have in mind for who we are, and then how that plays out in a relationship, tells us about ourselves. In the context of your spiritual growth, who your partner is, how you interact with the people who are close to you. You are not a person who is stuck in circumstances. You might be. Let me rephrase this. Let's give 2 different scenarios. One scenario, you've selected your partner. You have selected your close one-on-one relationships. That's who's around you. So that's the life that you are living. Now, when you have in mind your spiritual growth, when you have in mind your path, when you have in mind for what this new moon promises you, the ultimate victory, are these the right people with you? Are you who you are? Are you who you want to be around these ones? 7th house is opposite 1st house. 1st house is you. 7th house is you with a mirror up to you, because that's how you act when you're around other people. That's one scenario. The other scenario, because it's important to acknowledge this, a lot of people right now, a lot of people a lot of times, who you are around is just right now who you are around. It's not necessarily how you would have done it, but you're playing the hand you got dealt, and right now, this is the hand you got dealt. You are around these people. It's not how you would have chosen it. It's not what you have in mind. As soon as you can make a change, you will, but this is what you're doing right now. In this opportunity, people do tell us a lot about ourselves. So even if this wasn't your choice, ultimately things are never an accident. And where you are is so you can learn. Pay attention to the things that trigger you. And by trigger, I mean this. Pay attention to what affects you. As an example, I have Mars in my 7th house. So if somebody tells me I'm stupid, I'd laugh it off because I'm not, and it doesn't even bother me. But if somebody tells me I didn't try in a relationship, that will send me over the edge. That's my trigger. Well, it was my trigger until I realized it. So watch what affects you. And this is what you learn, especially if the people are, especially if the people aren't your choice. You're invested in them differently than you would be invested in people who were your choice. So pay attention to what bothers you and why. Imagine, right, the Capricorn Pluto. So whatever structure you're in right now, pay attention to what needs cleaned out, because whatever lessons you learn now, they will be valuable and you can replicate them later when you are in a situation that you can control. For right now, the control that you have is with yourself and how you react to things and what you pay attention to. And I don't mean that in a way like you should just be able to deflect anything. Keep a journal, do what you need to do, but keep record. And there's the benefit for just now. Now, Cancers. The Mars-Uranus aspect is taking place in your 11th house, which has to do with your hopes and wishes. It has to do with internet, friends, networks, associations, people you interact with by choice. So, the Mars, You may feel some urgent, strong need to initiate something or to do something or to take some action. You don't have to. It's just an energy. You don't have to. Everything is changing still. The ground is still moving. Everything is uncertain. You don't have to make any moves. It'll pass. The other element is the Uranus. So something unexpected may happen when it has to do with those 11th house things. Some friend may surprise you in a good way or not in a good way. Just keep your eyes open and be prepared, because part of your growth, part of your development is how you respond to things, especially how you respond to adversity. Anybody can respond well to good news. That's easy. It's when something difficult happens. That's when your character shows. And that's what makes up your character. So the two concluding thoughts here. Number one, take justice for yourself. When you observe the behavior that you're subjected to, usually by the people closest to you, if somebody else was in your situation and told you what was going on, how would you advise them? How would you tell them to take care of themselves, to honor themselves, and to love themselves? So, it's point number one. Set your own policies. Set your own guidelines for what's okay. Does it bring you peace? Does it bring you enrichment? Does it bring you growth? Whatever your parameters are, set them for yourself and adhere to them. Take justice for yourself like you would seek justice for others. The second part, you got dealt a hand. Everybody got dealt a hand. The world will tell you that your future depends on what hand you got dealt. Your spiritual path will tell you something different. Your spiritual path will tell you that it's not the hand that you got dealt, it's how you play that hand. It's what you do with what you have available to you. It's you keeping solid form despite what adversity comes your way. It's you holding true to who you are and what you are about, regardless of who tries to tell you differently, regardless of who tries to define you, regardless of who tries to tell you that you don't belong where you are, that you have no business where you're going, or tries to label you like you're evil, or like you're doing something bad, or like you're not safe to be around other people. Your path is your path. Your path is your path. There's great pain when the people who are closest to you don't seem to recognize that, and they mislabel you, and they judge you, and they're not seeking reconciliation. That's sometimes the hardest part. They're not seeking reconciliation. They're not seeking connection. You're the only one looking for that. Even when the evidence is very clear that that's the case, our attachment to what we think these people owe us, what we think these relationships are supposed to be like, what we're told we are supposed to be a part of, all of this supposed to, all of this idea, all of this, whatever is not clear is not clear. Whatever is not the reality is not the reality. Again, how you would seek justice for others, seek that justice, seek that peace for yourself.